So D does the almost impossible job of corralling the idiots at my office, mostly including me. And so we just go about trying to do our work, and we love our work, and we just want to do it, you know. And we certainly have this flow of feedback to assist us in understanding the effects as perceived by the clients and the people that we work with. But really, we're just out there, just sort of blindly charging ahead, getting our work done, because we, for the most part, love doing what we do. And so Dee is constantly looking at, so how are they doing financially? Ever since Ryan's team figured out how to sort of export the average feedback score from a project into the system, then we are able to chart those two things together. So the dots you see up here are the average feedback score. Certainly, as I think Pat was mentioning yesterday, there are places where you can look at the range of feedback on a particular project, the highest score, the lowest score, what they were in, all that. But this is boiling it down to just saying, excuse me, what was that average number? And then what was the percent profit of that project? And it's plotted in comparison to the average percent profit of projects, usually of the last quarter or the last year, to where we sort of have a relative metric of how did it do relative to the other projects that we do. So the number you see at the bottom of the middle scale, 22%, that was the average percent profit that we had been seeing in that last 12 months. And so all those dots are just plotted relative to that. And D, when she comes in and begins meeting with us about our results financially, she always had an uphill battle, because she would hand out her information and all the team leaders would just go straight down, look at their numbers, then compare their numbers to everybody else's numbers. And this is just a 1 month roll up, and they would just go, okay, I'm all right. And it was sort of over. They were very focused for a few moments, then it was kind of over, and they kind of went, I'm all right, so I got to get back to work. But this report, they suddenly looked at, and it was like it turned into 3D or something. And they went, look at all this. And then they would compare their dots with the other team's dots. And suddenly a much richer sort of representation of what happened was in front of them. And I think it forced them to be more aware. It got them more interested in what really happened. I think it also encouraged them to be more aware, because we began talking about, so what about that dot over here and that dot over there? So when Dee brings this to the meeting, suddenly the thing that I would say is one of her highest and most noble things that she does at the office, which is to get us interested and aware in our outcomes. She's not going to be able to force us against our will into certain policies or processes, but if she can make us aware, we'll do that ourselves. So.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to say is when I bring this to the meetings, all the project managers, they know these numbers. They get a weekly report with the feedback from their clients, and we look at, when we go through our billing cycle, we look at projects, and they know what their profitability is. So it's not new information. But it is new in that it's put together in a sort of a different way. So I guess you could say they've experienced these numbers. But one of the things that, where do you learn the most? Do you learn the most from the experience or reflecting on the experience? And I think reflecting, that's the important potion here, if you want to call it that, is they get to see these two numbers together, and they really experience or reflect on what happened. And so usually when I bring this out, they'll sit there for a few minutes, and there might be a little snippet of information. This is the same thing that's on the screen. And I did take out some of the projects. I sort of scaled it down, but this is the 3 studios together. And no, this past quarter we didn't have anything below the line. Everything was above the line.
And it wasn't always like that.
Right, yeah.
And when you say below the line, would you hand me that thing for a second?
Okay, yeah.
So I'll point where you're talking. So the line she's talking about, of course, is the met expectations line here on the feedback scale. And what we saw was, as we started measuring this stuff, we had stuff down here where the average feedback score was below met expectations. And what seemed to be an immediate focus by the 3 project team leaders, they went, I shall not have dots down below that line. It was like, nope, I'm not going to be the one who's, lost one, so to speak. And so immediately, this stuff moved up. And I do believe that even today, there's a continued effort to always have at least an average score above met expectations. So it is a beautiful thing, if you ask me, as the founder of the company, to not have dots below here. Or better said, it is a beautiful thing to have the process in place that tends to not let dots or project results ever fall below that line.
Yeah. So one of the stories I wanted to make sure that we told was, if you see C building, that's a 31% profit.
Where?
Right, the yellow gold triangle.
Here.
Right here.
Top little dot there. Top little button. The little green.
Okay, right here, right here. This client is matched very well with the project manager. They're not going to give anything above a 4. That's met expectations. That's what they give. And the project manager, if you send her a questionnaire for feedback, what is she going to give you? A 4.
All 4s.
All 4s. So, and I've heard a lot of you talk throughout this conference about, well, we just got a 4. Well, 4s are good. I think 4s, that's a good score, especially if you get the profitability with that project. But this project manager is matched very well with that project. And actually, some of these are on based on billing client. This one is. Some of them, if you see something like a doctor, that's a specific project. So I grouped them differently based on the teams. 2 of the teams are based on billing client, and then the other team is primarily just based on projects. Another project that has a story to tell is this one up here. We almost didn't get this project, where we've got a great feedback score, 6.97.
Average.
Yeah, average. They love us, but we almost didn't get it. It took, and I think part of the discussion with this was that we didn't quite have the right project designer on that project, but we didn't learn that until we got into the project. Now, a lot of this, I don't know, but I get little snippets of information throughout the office. And I don't always know the big picture, but I get information. And so sometimes when we get these reports, it kind of when they start talking about it, because this is what opens up the discussion, to talk about what happens with the projects.
And let me add something on that.
Okay.
Because I worked on that project. Yes. So that was a massive university, one of the big 3 in our neighborhood. And of course, the big 3 are Duke, UNC, and NC State. So one of those guys hired us to do a brand new innovation and entrepreneurial center. It was massively funded. It was to be an incredible project. It really had to have a high profile design-wise, and there was an aggressive schedule, and we had a very good GC already selected to work with. And it was a nice project. And as we were getting lined up to do this project, word came from one of the other departments at the university that they thought another architect should handle this thing because the other architect would be better equipped and could do a better job. And so after I quit crying, we sort of went, you know what, we can do a fine job here, and we will show them. And one of the things that became our point of honor was, you know what, we got the job, obviously, and we got it in part by saying, this will give us a chance to show you what we can do on this type of project, and we'll do everything within our power to to sort of make you proud, to to let you see that you made the right decision in hiring us. And internally, we said, you know what, we can have the best intentions, we can think we have the best process, we can even think we're doing the best thing, but it's really what they think that we need to track here. So we did surveys to where we could find out, or basically make sure, that what we were doing was having the kind of effect and looking like to our clients. We had multiple parties here that we were after. So having this tool let us have some way of putting metrics to our intention and to see how it was working out of really performing well to that client. And it was a tough project. And remember yesterday when I did my presentation, I had a slide that says conformational consistency. And once somebody says, you did an incredible job, you knocked it out of the park, they tend to retain that feeling about your work to some degree going forward. And they tend to report it to others, which is exactly what we wanted to do here. So a little byproduct of sitting these surveys and getting these high scores is that it tends to cement in the people's mind who are filling them out what you are to them, how you perform, and they tend to report that to others, not to mention we can use this information with others. Yes?
Just have 1 minute left.
Okay.
We do, this project here is a project that we decided we didn't want. We had good feedback on it, but it just was not going to be a long-term. So we've learned to walk away from projects. Same thing here. This is a contractor that kind of needs a lot of hand-holding that we work with sometimes. And we'll probably continue to work with them, but maybe not on a large basis. As long as there's plenty of work out there, we have plenty coming in the door. This is a new client that we've worked with this past year, and we've done a lot of work with them, and we hope to do more. So we're kind of learning how to match up, different project designers and project managers with that owner. The other thing I wanted to say is sometimes I look at this feedback as the person that's giving the feedback. I sort of consider them, very technical. This would be a technical person. This person up here, they're very gregarious. They like a lot of hand-holding, enthusiasm. So feedback also depends on, who you're dealing with. So you can't always look at that score. Like I think who was up here yesterday, Lee, who said, he doesn't. When you have
Pat.
Pat, it was Pat, yeah.
Pat was saying 6 and 7. So
yeah, he doesn't really pay attention to them.
they mean something.
Yeah. So
It doesn't mean the person walks on water, but they mean something.
Yeah, it's how you deal with that client. What kind of personality that client needs to have enthusiasm with the project.
Provide the best fit.
Yeah, best fit. So anyway, this always opens up a lot of discussion. Usually it's very quiet in the room, but we don't. And Mike's very good about this. He does not. We're going to kick you out the door if you have a project down here. He's very kind about it. It's like, what can we do to help? Because we're all
We
in
ask
it
what
together.
happened.
Yeah.
So
that's
tell
what
us
happened.
about this dot.
Yeah. So it opens up lots of discussion. He's looking at me like it's time to go.